Hello and welcome to another marvelous video. I'm your host, Will. Rejoice, true believers, we have something good for you. We may be getting a sequel to Marvel's surprise hit, Werewolf by Night. And in this video, we're gonna go over all the juicy rumors. Let's get to it, shall we?
I know superheroes and Marvel are almost synonymous, but even in the supernatural genre, Marvel has done a pretty impressive job. Back in 1972, they released a comic, Werewolf by Night, and introduced Jack Russell, who could transform into a werewolf. And Russell's backstory is one of the most interesting plots I've read in a comic. However, he remained an underrated character for decades until 2022, when a TV special, Werewolf by Night, streamed on Disney+. And boom! Suddenly, everyone was talking about just one thing, Jack's transformation into the big bad wolf. Love how Marvel makes one good decision in years and fans go gaga over a hidden gem. The black and white TV special became the most streamed film in the US for the week ending October 9th, according to the TV Time app, which tracks viewership data for over 21 million worldwide users. Now, at the end of the movie, there was enough room for a potential follow-up, but it went quiet. We scratched our heads as to what happened to Jack for years after that last scene. But finally, we've got some good news. Werewolf by Night might be getting a sequel soon. So without any further delay, let's check out every detail we know about this. It's been almost 4 years since we saw Bloodstone's magic. So before I get into talks of a possible sequel, let's take a refresher. Marvel fans are way too familiar with the ancient supernatural red gem and Elsa Bloodstone. But how does she fit into Russell's story? For that, we have to go back in time when the monster hunter Ulysses Bloodstone died. After his death, his wife Verussa called in 5 experienced monster hunters, including Jack Russell at the Bloodstone Manor. And trust me, the view of the mansion and its hallways will give you the creeps. Verussa basically called them to hold a macabre memorial for Ulysses, but soon, it turns out that she has different intentions. Basically, she had organized a deadly hunt, and whoever wins that will get the Bloodstone as the reward. Enter Elsa, who has been estranged and banished from the family and has now turned up to compete for her father's stone. But Verussa warns her not to. Turning a deaf ear to her stepmother, she participated in the hunt. Now, Verussa explained that the gem would be attached to the monster to weaken it, and apart from Russell and Elsa, we had Liorn, Azarel, Barasso, and Joven competing. But Russell was there for a whole different purpose. He wanted to help free the Man-Thing, a human being Ted turned into a monster by experiments and kept confined in the Bloodstone Manor. And Ted was Russell's friend, so he basically looked at the hunt as a rescue mission. Ultimately, he and Elsa team up. Yes, she wants the Bloodstone, but she's also tired of her family's history of hunting monsters. So they hatch a simple plan. Free Ted, take the Bloodstone, and get the hell out of there. However, things take an interesting turn when Russell touches the Bloodstone. It reacts violently and reveals that he too is actually a monster. As a result, Verussa and the remaining hunters capture Russell and Elsa and lock them in a cage and use the Bloodstone to force Russell to transform into his werewolf form. Why? Because she wanted the werewolf to kill her stepdaughter. Of course, that backfired, and somehow the werewolf refrained from attacking Elsa. And guess what? The Man-Thing then comes to help Russell, and Elsa kills Verussa. While Elsa claimed the Bloodstone, Russell wakes up in the forest in his human form, with Ted overlooking him. The Man-Thing and Jack bond in their bizarre way, and we wonder what's next for them. See, the special was a huge success, and it proved just how much fun Marvel could have if it stepped away from the usual superhero formula and leaned into monsters and old-school horror. Megan Navarro wrote in a review for Bloody Disgusting, "The MCU kicked the horror into overdrive with Werewolf by Night, the nearly hour-long feature presented as a classic horror movie, dropping viewers into the middle of a secret world of monster hunters. Cigarette burns and film grain get added for that retro look. Personally, I loved the black and white cinematography, because it reminded me of the 30s and 40s monster flicks. You know the classics like Frankenstein, 1931, The Wolfman, 1941, Bride of Frankenstein, 1935, and all those gritty horror movies. But the frustrating part is that, despite how well it was received, Marvel has barely done anything with these characters since. And as it so happens, there has been some news about the second part to his Werewolf by Night. when journalist and prominent MCU insider Alex Perez was asked about a possible Werewolf by Night sequel by Discord members. He said, "I've recently come into some neat information that points to a sequel for Werewolf by Night being in development." That's reassuring. And Perez further confirmed that special presentations for various Marvel projects, including Werewolf by Night, are being worked on. This news has dropped recently, and a day after when comicbookmovie.com shared the news, fans lost their minds. Many commented that they are down for a Werewolf by Night sequel, and a user, Loudlon, said, "As big a comic book fan as I am, I'm an even bigger horror movie fan. So I would love another Werewolf by Night special. In fact, I'd like it if they made that a semi-annual thing. Maybe every other Halloween or so." Another user said, "Werewolf by Night sequel would be amazing though." Yep, it's clear that fans are fully supporting the idea of writer Heather Quinn and Peter Cameron carrying forward Jack Russell and Elsa's story, because I'm sure all of us have sensed a potential romantic angle between the two. In fact, there's actually a comic connection to this. When Elsa and Jack met in the miniseries Legion of Monsters, there was some flirting between the two, and then in Fearless Defenders, it was revealed that they had been together for a while. See, as of now, we have to take the news about the sequel of Werewolf by Night as rumor because Marvel has not yet officially announced it. But as Marvel Studios' first special presentation and the directorial debut of Oscar-winning composer Michael Giacchino, the special was absolutely brilliant. And that's exactly why even these tiny breadcrumbs of updates have managed to get us excited. However, the biggest news came from Giacchino himself during the red carpet event for Spider-Man Brand New Day. He told Screen Rant's Tatiana Hollander that Marvel and he are talking about a Werewolf by Night 2 movie, and continued that everything takes a lot of time to do and requires a lot of planning, especially for horror-centric projects. To quote him, "Everything has to fit in a particular place at a particular time. Nothing moves as fast as we'd like it to. But I hope one day that you will be sitting there watching another Werewolf by Night. That's my hope." Honestly, it does seem that a sequel to the 2022 TV special is absolutely possible because of a lot of reasons. Firstly, we have the director himself confirming that there are talks about it, and secondly, Gael Garcia Bernal as Jack and Laura Donnelly as Elsa got a whole lot of praise. In fact, when the first movie released, co-executive producers Kevin Feige and Brian Gay stated that Werewolf by Night was just the beginning of their exploration in the MCU's den of supernatural creatures. And Giacchino too has often teased us with a range of ideas on how he would pick up from the first special finale. Back in 2023, he told Collider, "There's always talk, but you know, until someone decides to spend a penny, nothing happens yet." So hopefully, my wish is that yes, there will be more with these characters. I would love to. And I have ideas of what I would love to do with them. And it's all crazy and nuts, but I think that's the only way to go about it. So hopefully, one day. Hopefully, one day. I guess it's pretty much clear that the idea for a second Werewolf by Night has always been present in the minds of the creators, and sooner or later, it is going to happen. We have a director who is absolutely excited to return and full of plot points, and even the lead actress, Laura Donnelly, told The Wrap, "Any opportunity to explore a follow-up, I would leap at. And I would also love to explore that relationship between Elsa and Jack as well. That's just one that is just touched on, and you see the beginning of something blossoming. And we don't know what that is. And I love working with Gail. I would be very, very happy to. Just call me." Also, executive producer Feige kind of gave us a reason as to why Werewolf by Night Part 2 was being delayed for a specific reason, and that it has not been scrapped. The thing is, the MCU has been going through a rough time over the last couple of years with various box office failures and critical misfires. Understandably, they're saving their resources and efforts for the mega projects, like Spider-Man Brand New Day, and now Avengers Doomsday and Secret Wars. Feige recently said in an interview with Empire magazine, "A lot of it is a strategy we've talked about for a while, of focusing on quality. We always try to focus on quality, but when quantity is so much, you get spread thin. We didn't want to be spread thin, and the Avengers is as important as it comes." Now here's the juicy part. The fact that Giacchino recently commented about Marvel discussing a second Werewolf by Night might not necessarily mean that the development has begun right now. Because think about Marvel's 2026 San Diego Comic-Con presentation. We all saw how the studio confirmed Ryan Gosling as the new Ghost Rider with Sean Levy attached to direct the movie. That tells us that the MCU might be sneakily moving towards the supernatural side, and the already established projects like Moon Knight and Werewolf by Night will definitely be put on the table for a revival. In fact, back in November 2025, Giacchino actually gave a strong hint that he would be returning to the director's chair for a Werewolf by Night sequel, and that it might be his next project after Fantastic Four: First Steps. He said, "If you haven't seen Werewolf by Night, watch it. It's on Disney+. Yep, the math was simple." However, there's another question. The original special was specifically made into a self-contained movie, and though the director can pick up from there, it's possible for the second Werewolf by Night to head into a completely new direction. Moreover, since there were minimal connections to the wider MCU in the 2022 special, the sequel is free from having to tie its story to the larger multiversal saga. And even if they are planning to use Secret Wars as a soft reset of the MCU, Jack and Elsa can still come back without worrying too much about the existing continuity. Also, after the 2022 feature, we also got some new Werewolf by Night comics like Werewolf by Night: Blood Hunt 2024 and Werewolf by Night: Blood Moon Rise 2025. And it's absolutely possible that Giacchino will draw from these new material for his next movie. I know the 2024 comic doesn't feature Russell, but even if we are introduced to another werewolf, Jack Gomez, it can help the first one retain its standalone status while delivering something completely fresh. Frankly, that might be the best approach, because rather than squeezing Werewolf by Night into the increasingly crowded multiverse saga, or forcefully continuing Russell and Elsa's story, unless there are some solid points to do so, Marvel could use the post-Secret Wars MCU era to expand its supernatural corner. And it might just be the failsafe Marvel needs. Because if Doomsday and Secret Wars doesn't take the MCU in the intended direction, they can fall back on something unique after years of cosmic chaos. Given that Gary Conway, the co-creator of Werewolf by Night, recently passed away after battling pancreatic cancer, Marvel now has an even bigger reason to make sure any follow-ups on the IP should be treated with care to honor his legacy. Alright folks, that's all we have for today. I can't wait for Marvel to officially spill the tea that Werewolf by Night is all ready to come back and give us another amazing Halloween experience. As of now, these updates seem encouraging, and Giacchino's excitement is only giving us more hope. Let us know your thoughts in the comments down below, and if you like this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. We'll see you in the next one. Excelsior!